Have you ever prayed and it felt like your words hit the ceiling? You cried, maybe even shouted, and heaven stayed silent. And you wondered, did God hear me? Or worse, did he ignore me? Most preachers tell you, God answers all prayers, yes, no, or wait. But that's not the full story. The Bible actually reveals that there are prayers God himself refuses to answer. Let that sink in. The Almighty saying no. Not because he doesn't love us, but because sometimes the very thing we're asking would destroy us. Other times it's because our hearts are not ready. And sometimes it's because our prayer itself is the problem. Let me show you. In the book of James it says, "You ask and do not receive, because you ask with wrong motives, that you may spend it on your pleasures." In other words, not every prayer is born out of faith. Some are born out of selfishness. And God, as a father, will not feed what will poison us. Think of a child begging for candy every meal. A loving father doesn't say yes, not because he hates his child, but because he loves them too much to let them rot their teeth. How much more God with us? But that's only the beginning. There are prayers God ignores because of hidden sin. Psalm 66:18 says, "If I had cherished sin in my heart, the Lord would not have listened." Isaiah 59 adds, "Your iniquities have separated you from your God, so that he will not hear." This is hard truth. God cannot be manipulated with lips while our hearts remain far from him. We cannot lift unrepentant hands and expect him to move heaven. But don't mistake this for cruelty. God's silence in sin is actually his mercy, shaking us awake, pulling us back to repentance. He doesn't want us to use prayer as a mask. He wants prayer to transform us. Now here's another reason. Sometimes God refuses prayers because they're too small. Ephesians 3:20 says, "He is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine." But if all we ever pray for is comfort, convenience, safety, we're not asking in line with his kingdom. And a prayer that is too small for his glory will be refused, so he can answer with something greater. Paul begged 3 times for God to remove his thorn. The answer was no. But it wasn't rejection, it was redirection. God said, "My grace is sufficient for you. My power is made perfect in weakness." Paul asked for relief. God gave him revelation. And then there's this. Sometimes God refuses to answer because the timing is wrong. Think of Lazarus. Mary and Martha prayed, "Lord, come heal our brother." Jesus delayed, and Lazarus died. Was that unanswered prayer? No, it was better than answered. Because when Jesus finally arrived, he didn't just heal the sick, he raised the dead. What looked like silence was setting the stage for a greater glory. So let's piece it all together. Why does God refuse certain prayers? Because our motives are wrong. Because sin blocks our cry. Because our request is too small. Or because the timing isn't yet. And in every case, his no is not rejection. It is protection. It is redirection. It is preparation. Now, let me ask you, which unanswered prayer in your life still stings? Could it be that God is guarding you from something unseen or preparing something greater than you asked for? Remember this, the silence of God is not the absence of God. Sometimes, his greatest love is hidden in the prayers he refuses to answer. If this spoke to you, share in the comments. What's one prayer you thought God ignored? And what did you later realize about his plan? Your story might be the encouragement someone else desperately needs today.